Okay, so let's go back to the eyes. I'm going to take some raw umber. I'll mix some raw umber up. And the white, so that we can build up the brightness in the eyes on this side. Now, we need to be very careful. As I said yesterday, don't fill the eye with white. One of the things is when we look at something, most people look at something with their head, their brain, rather than with their eyes. And the problem with that is we paint what we think we see rather than what we actually see. And when it comes to the eyes, we tend to see very white eyes, but actually there's all sorts of shadows in the eye, and we only see parts of the eye which are white. So that's sort of more here. So I'm going to build up like that. So you see how that's brighter and it's blending back. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. So it's very much less is more. Here, now I just want to take that first grey layer a little bit further back like that, just to fill that in there like that, and also just to bring up a little bit more on that side. But notice I'm still leaving the proplasmos, and it's really blending down into that. And now I'm going to go back to my whiter grey, and I want to put more into that top area there, and then round on the side here. And this is having the effect of making Our Lady gaze over in this direction, which is what I want. And then on this one here, now on the cam, this is looking brighter than it does in real life. It's the way the light is hitting it. Maybe take that down like that, maybe. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my raw umber, and around the edge of the iris, which is in that nutty brown color, I'm going to put like a crescent moon around the iris like that. You don't want it too strong. And the same on this side here. Just giving it that definition. And then I'm going to take just some yellow ochre and bring that around there like that, just a little bit, okay? Now, one of the key things in the icon is we're showing an interior radiance rather than a reflected exterior light. So we don't get those sort of bright reflections on the eyeball that you'll get in naturalistic painting. And a lot of people who really don't understand iconography, and they just think it's sort of primitive and they think they can improve it, they start trying to put sort of these bright reflective bits in the eye, and that really shows they don't know what they're doing. So don't don't make that mistake. Now, this bit of the eye there, I just need to go back over that, strengthen that up. That's looking better. Now then, I want to mix some raw umber now with some black. Now, some people never use black. Some people, and there's some artists not particularly to do with iconography. This is true in sort of art schools and places like that. They sort of say, oh, you can't use black for various reasons, but I've never seen using pure black is maybe it's just too aggressive. But here I'm using raw umber with black in it and doing a thin, thick line here, and then going over the pupil on that side, bring that round. Same on this side. That. Now I'm going to go back to my raw umber, and if you see on the original, these have got these quite strong, thick eyelashes. So I just want to thicken these up a little bit. And again, I'm not rushing it. I'm going to build up these thin layers as we go along. Now back to the raw umber, and I'm putting 1 or 2 lines on here, and then the same there. So coming up to the where it meets the bridge of the nose here, and then putting those lines on like that. So like that. Then back over that nostril, which I want to be a bit stronger. Now I'm going back over those, just covering less and less each time. A lot of people make the mistake of going all the way over and really thick, heavy lines, as though that's somehow going to make it look pleasing. You've got to be really patient. And now I'm going to put a thin little line underneath there like that for the lower eyelash on either side. And back over the see how many times I've gone over that? I'd rather go over it several times and create something that has a sort of delicacy to it. Now, I've made a little mistake here. You see that point, it's sort of going a little too far, so it's created a little chink. So I just want to wash that back like that. And it's watching these little things which makes a big difference. Okay, now I've begun to build those eyes up to give them their definition. Put a little more red into there. Now going to mix up some more white into the yellow. And each time we're covering less and less of an area. If you've got your lower areas on subtly, you see suddenly this is now beginning to jump out. Get those nice thin, thick, thin lines in here. Now, I'm not doing the brightest lines yet. I'm creating the foundation on which they're going to be placed. I've got a couple of you. Yes, Leah, I am using black, but not pure black. I've mixed black into the raw umber. So I use it to darken, but not pure black. And now I'm building this radiance up, this luminosity up. Nice and slowly. And looking behind those white lines that you can see on the original to create the foundation that those lines will eventually go on. So observe very carefully where those lighter areas are, okay? Now feathering that out so that that comes together. Now this looks really bright, not because it's got more white in it, but because actually there's less of an area being covered and it's right next to these darker areas. So don't be tricked into thinking, oh, I've got to add more white to make it brighter. Sometimes you have to darken the area next to it because maybe you've put too much white on or you've covered too wide an area. thin, thick, thin line there. If you look on this original, if you look here, sorry, that's looking very bright, isn't it? I don't know how to change that, but we just, that's better. If you look at this area here, let me just move these out of the way. You can see how there's that bright area there is brighter than that line there. And that is brighter than that line there and that area there. So you look on here, can you see how bright those bits are? But it's not as bright there and not as bright there. So it's building up to those bright lines, but the bright lines themselves are very, very small. And their radiancy is because they're lying on a darker line underneath, a less bright line underneath. So be very careful as you observe where those brightest lines are and how limited they are and how they rely on what's underneath to really present and support, like the ear here. You see you've got that bright line right there, which is brighter than that line there. So observing your original models is really important. Right. So now I'm going to mix some more white into my yellow. Test it out on where it's brightest. Exactly the same as before, just blend out where necessary. That top lip rests in shadow, and the lower lip then comes up with this bright top and bottom. Notice I've not put any red color on that bottom lip yet. I'm just making it one long bit of flesh, which we will then wash over with red when we've got it to the stage that we want. And you see now that face is beginning to really radiate. one of the advantages of an online course compared to a physical course is you can see more of what the artist is doing when he's demonstrating, because you've got the camera set up. Though I have started in my actual physical courses to use a camera in this way so that people can see more clearly. Right, what's the time? Okay, good, we've got enough time. I'm not going to have time in this course, I think, because we're almost out of sessions, to illustrate doing the garments. Yes, and I am moving over the whole face rather than just bringing up the eye or bringing up the nose, because what you want is to paint a whole face, not a series of features that you're sticking together. So in order to be able to tune the whole face, you need to work the whole face at the same sort of time. Right. So now what I want to do is to do some washes. Royce, I'm afraid I'm not going to have the time to do the garments and things, and it would be silly for me just to give you the names and everything. What I might do is actually then run a second course maybe next week or later this week, for those who would like to see the garments and the rest of it finished. So if you'd be willing to do that, I have to set up another course for you to buy on my website, and I'll choose some dates and stuff, maybe the end of this week. Okay, yeah, okay. Quite a few of you seem interested, so I'll try and sort that out and send you an email about that. Okay. So I'm now going to take some vermilion. This is genuine vermilion. It's toxic, it's very expensive, but you don't need very much. So literally, I'm just going to take that much. I'm going to mix it up. So I really recommend anybody who just managed to spill water into my palette and everywhere, which is a real pain. Never mind. That's my mixing brush. If you're really serious about your icons, you should buy yourself a little amount of genuine vermilion. And if you're not prepared to pay, I don't know, £10 or whatever it is for 10 grams, well, you shouldn't be painting icons, because it is a sacred art and it does demand a certain amount of investment. And that's one of the things I think is well worth doing. And using things like vermilion substitutes, it never has the same effect. So please, I beg you, use genuine vermilion. So I'm now using genuine vermilion, which I've washed down quite a bit. And I'm now going to that top lip and that middle section, and then just a little line here, like that. So don't take it all the way down to the bottom of the upper lip. Leave a little of your darker color, and don't take it all the way into the sides there, because yeah, cinnabar is the same as vermilion. They're the same thing. Okay. And then the bottom lip, I've got it very dilute, and I'm just washing red over the bottom. Okay, the vermilion. Let that dry, and then I'll give it another coat and another coat. But for now, that's okay. Now the nose, I'm going to put a wash of vermilion along that side there, and then round the bowl of the nose there, and then a little bit in here, around here. But you see how thin a wash of paint we're putting on. And then if no vermilion is available, order it online. There, you see how that the vermilion has this wonderful gentle radiance. On the eyelid. Yes, after lockdown. I mean, if you don't have any now and you're trying to complete the icon, obviously you use what you have. But if I had imitation vermilion, I'd knock it back with a little bit of red ochre, so it's not quite so aggressive. And then on the chin here, see that there, put it around there, bring it up here. So I'm now washing the vermilion into the shadows. Like this. If you put red into the shadows, it brings them closer to you. Well done, Eleanor. Yes, well spotted and well shared. There are things being delivered, which is good. Okay. So, and then we need a little red in for the cheeks. And on the original, you can see that there's this red area here. Okay. So, but you see, it's literally just a wash. If you make it too strong, it will really, you'll lose the gentle presence. And just looking at that lip, I want to just bring that up a little bit further, like that. These are just very, 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 very subtle washes. If you put them on too strong, partly to avoid sensuality, that's really the shape of it. So you keep that quite flat, but you don't want it to look as though she's wearing makeup. That's certainly true. So just now then I've also want to mix up some terre verte to do some washes in that. Now we've got how many minutes? We've got 5 minutes, so I've got time to do this. So I'm using some terre verte, green earth. Again, you don't need very much of this, but this is really, really cheap, so everybody will have that. It's a very translucent pigment, so you don't need so much water with this. Yes, vermilion is the same as cinnabar, basically. So either of those are good to use, but try to avoid using the imitation vermilion. That's the thing to avoid. So I'm mixing up now some terre verte. And if you look on your original, you can see that there are certain areas which, like here, around the eye, there's quite a lot of green in here. So I'm going to put bits of green in here. Now that, because the green is cooler, it's not so aggressive as red, it sort of recedes. So you see how that's just immediately knocked that side of the face back. Nicosia green is okay, yes. That's a terre verte. It's just mixed with a little, I think it's got a little cobalt blue in it. But that's okay. So you see that, how that green wash is intensifying that sense of anguish on the face. But less is more, so do be careful not to sort of whack it on. Just putting in that little shadow there between the lips. This shadow here underneath the chin. You see how that's made the shadow underneath recede and the chin comes forward. So you can play with this a little bit to get the right effects. A bit more green. This is helping that side of the face really to recede round, and this therefore comes forward. So now let me just that upper lip where I expanded it here, I just need to refine that. Now on this bottom lip, just want to strengthen that bottom there. And in the middle, I'm just going to put another little line like that. Very, very light. So it's not a big heavy line, but it's definitely there. Put that around there.